kind of guy with the briefcase under his arm, but he was cute, you know. He kind of had this little, like, puppy dog thing about him, you know. We all liked him. We all would seek a little refuge with Scott.
Did Cherie talk about Scott? Because Cherie was very involved with Scott.
I was just this little naive 16-year-old girl that shacking up with this, I guess he was 28, 29-year-old man. My father just did not see it. He didn't understand. He goes, "What is wrong with this picture, Cherie?" "Oh, but Dad, it's real love. It really is."
I'm not sure how Scott Anderson got into the whole situation. He did manage the band along with Kim Fowley. And I guess at one point, Kim was managing the band, writing songs with the band, producing the band, and I think the reason why Scott Anderson was brought in was because there was a conflict of interest there, because he was doing everything. Kim was doing everything.
Oh, well, here, you want the great story that everybody will kill me for? I walked into rehearsal one day, and everyone else is there. They're all sitting up on the stage at the front. And the instant I walk in the door, Kim looks up and just yells at me, "Did you sleep with Scott Anderson?" And I said, "Hell no." There was a moment of dead silence, and then Kim said, "Well, you're the only one who didn't." So there was our responsible management.
Oh, Cherie and I, well, we didn't get along too good. She had a lot of things distracting her from what was important, and the music was important to me. And trying to become, you know, everything that Kim Fowley said we were going to be in the very beginning. That was my goal. He'd wound me up with that very first phone call I received from him, and that was my goal. I had a vision. I had something to achieve, and that was what I wanted to do. And Cherie was really busy doing other things. Anyway, she was distracted a lot by other band members and management, drugs, cheeseburgers. I wasn't real, you know how a couple of the girls in the band would flock and hang together, and then another couple of the girls would sort of flock and hang together, you know? And Cherie and I were separate. There was Cherie and whoever, and then there was Lita and whoever. We just didn't really hang out that much. So whatever it was that Kim was doing to Cherie, or whatever it was that Scott Anderson was doing to Cherie, I only knew about it from behind closed doors. I wasn't real, we didn't talk, we didn't hang out.
I know that I had friendships and rivalries with other members of the band, but it was mostly either I was friends with Lita and not friends with Cherie, or I was friends with Cherie and not friends with Lita. And when I was on the outs with the two of them, those were the nastiest rivalries. We were playing in Texas somewhere, and Lita and I were sharing a room. And Lita stayed out all night partying, crawled back in at about 10 or 11 the next morning. So I wake up at 11, and I'm kind of sitting there in the dark trying not to bother Lita. And around noon, I needed to make a phone call. So I kept the lights off. I'm making this phone call. Lita wakes up and starts screaming at me to keep it down. And she finally gets so mad at me, she picks up the phone, hits me over the head with it, and tries to strangle me with the cord. At which point, I ended up sitting in the lobby for 4 hours just to get away from her, because Lita mad was something you didn't want to see.
The Runaways had one tragedy that offended me. They weren't friendly with each other, the way the Bee Gees probably were, because they were brothers.
Joan and I were as close as you could get, I think. What do you mean by how close, bitch? Of course, back in the 70s, there was this whole thing going on with bisexuality. David Bowie had come out of the closet, Elton John, and of course I was such a Bowie fan. I had to check that out, you know, and that was kind of, it was all part of the magic, I believe, of that era music and the free, not free, but free sex, basically free-minded experimentation. And I did, I mean, I had a couple of fun times with Joan. And she was good, too. Really good. It was Sandy, too, you know, but I don't want to mention
Well,
that.
keep it rolling. Keep
No.
it rolling.
Okay. And Sandy wasn't half bad either. Am I bad? Thank you. That's what I'd rather hear. Love you too.
There was a distance that they all had between them. The Runaways were from different neighborhoods, different backgrounds, and different schools who all joined one at a time a business enterprise. Like guys joining the army, they don't really know each other, and battle makes them friendly, but do they make them friends? I think that has a lot to say of why the band didn't continue, because they didn't have a lot in common with each other as people.
We were so competitive, and Kim Fowley and Scott Anderson so fed this, especially Kim. We were really encouraged to be jealous of each other and to be competitive with each other and not to be friends. People will sometimes ask me, you know, what do you think of Lita? What do you think of Joan? And the only answer I can make is, I don't know them. You know, I'm not the same person I was when I was 16, and we were all incredibly difficult in our own way. Cherie in the Runaways was the most self-centered person I've ever encountered in my life. Lita was just a bitch. Sandy,
I like just to have a good time, whatever I do.
Sandy just didn't seem capable of independent thought. You know, she had the best of intentions, but was easily persuaded by whoever in the band, you know, she was friends with in that particular week. And Joan was probably, at the time, the most stable, the one who was really the peacemaker in the band.
It's hard to say. I just love what I'm doing. I love to play music, and I love to spend time with my friends and meet nice people.
And I was just incredibly insecure, a total know-it-all.
Most people our age have never left the state they live in. We've been all around the world.
And throwing us together was just a battle of the personality problems.
Jackie was a little bit more feminine than the rest of us, wanting to have long nails and long high heels and, you know, when none of the other girls really gave a shit what their nails or their heels looked like. She's a total hypochondriac. She always thinks that there's something wrong with her when there's nothing wrong with her, which drove everybody nuts to the point where we used to, like, spray deodorant at her just to make her sick. Or she thought she was sick. She was like, oh, I can't breathe. But I love Jackie. I would room with Jackie. I'd hang out with Jackie. And, you know, we usually end up arguing over a jar of Noxzema or something.
Kim Fowley, I trusted him. I had to trust him. I didn't want to, but I had to. This was a father figure for all of us. This was the man that gave us money when we needed a hamburger or we needed something to eat, cigarette money. We had no money. He never gave us any money. He was using us in every way, shape, and form.
He really abused Cherie mercilessly, much worse than the rest of us. I mean, Lita would just abuse him back, so we pretty much left her alone. I don't really know what he did to Joan and Sandy. But he would set us off against each other so we could never gang up, figure out what he was doing, and replace him.
Well, I'll never forget this one thing that Kim did. This was what I like to call Kim Fowley's sex education class. We were playing someplace in Whittier. Actually, we were opening for the Tubes. And he had gotten one hotel room, of course, for all of us to change. Some little sleazy hotel room. And we were all there, and there was this twin bed pushed up against the wall. And he has us all sit down. He goes, I am going to teach you all the right way to fuck. And we're sitting there saying, what? This can't, he's not gonna do this.
Kim used the tools that he had, and he knew best how to use to try and keep the band in shape and whip it up. You know, that was his way, you know? I mean, I never saw him physically abuse or hit anyone or do anything like that, but verbally, he could be very abusive. You know, that's what he did to get the results that he wanted.
His manipulation, his ability to get control of us was by belittling us and by making us feel that we absolutely had no choice in what we were doing. We had no say in what we were doing. This man took a bunch of young kids because we were talented and because we had something special. And in order to gain that control, he forced us into horrible situations.
Yeah, but there were so many people in our lives that were abusive. I mean, I don't know that Kim probably was more abusive than anybody else, but you kind of start getting used to the abuse, and you no longer recognize it as abuse, which is part of what makes it abuse.
It's like when you're in the middle of something, it's really hard to step out and look at it. I mean, even to this day, people say, well, what was it like? And it's like, I can't say.
There's been a lot of allegations about Kim's abuse to and towards the band.
Yeah. I think that's pretty fair to say. He was verbally extremely abusive. You don't need to talk to anybody like that, call them the names he did. There was also emotional abuse to some of them, make their self-esteem. I wasn't included in that. Joan wasn't included in that. I don't think Lita was included. I think Cherie was included in that. I think Jackie was included in that. I think you were included in that. He seemed to pick on you guys pretty hard, verbally, emotionally, and belittling a lot. And I don't know what the difference was between, like, he didn't do that to me and Lita and Joe. Sexual abuse, possibly? Was there sexual abuse in the band with Kim Fallon? I'm not the person to ask.
Oh, I just can't believe. I mean, it is still coming back to us at this late date. Between 20 and 25 years, we've found out just what these young girls went through.
You put a girl out that young, more or less on her own, and not the promises that Kim Fowley made. And I'm still angry at this man.
I can hardly believe that that they could be. Oh, I'm sorry. I can't put it into words.
There were times I thought I couldn't take other circumstance with the Runaways because I was questioning things that were happening to them and what was going on. I would go to the studios. I would try to, be on top of things, but it was like a closed door most of the time.
I think what Kim Foley did is he put the girls together and whisked them away and out of town, away from mom and dad. And so nobody knew really what was going on.
So the girls really got messed up. And we parents, I think, went through a lot. It was very stressful and many nights of not sleeping, and it was a very difficult time. And I think back sometimes maybe I didn't really concentrate as much as I should have on Sandy. I don't know. I just know it was difficult. It was, after all, she was my baby too, and we were always very close and still are, even through all difficulties. We remained that way, thank God. But, there were times that I could have booted her in the fanny. That's awfully young to be out on your own.
Don Curry, that was Cherie's dad, was really causing him a lot of heartache. And was there any way that I could really tell him to, back off? And I said, well, I don't know. What is he doing? Well, then we found out that he was really investigating Kim Foley.
Kim would just go ballistic. and he would tell all of us girls, or